Great. So yes, hello everyone. We are having another meeting on education today. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll just start now. So here's our lecturer today, Miss Wambui, Teresia. So she is the gender and development expert, and she's going to deliver us the lecture regarding the topic of youth deforestation projects worldwide and the cases of youth-centered projects to combat deforestation. We hope this lecture can help you much with your action plans of your team. Yes, and please enjoy the lecture. And also, if you have any questions or further opinions, then you can really share after the lecture with the lecturer and also also with your peers. Yeah, so are you ready, Teresia?
I am ready, Kim.
Yeah, great.
Thank you so much for the warm introduction.
All right, thank you so much. And yes, and please big round of applause to Teresia for giving us a lecture. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. I hope you're doing well today. It's on a Sunday. I don't know where you are, but where I am actually in Kenya, it is 7 a.m. in the morning. So it's such a good Sunday morning, and I'm excited to be here with you. I hope this lecture will help us reflect about deforestation and also kind of bring us back home in terms of, what young people are doing in terms of trying to eradicate deforestation in the world. So I hope this will be an interactive session where we all share our experiences. I am a person who believes in peer-to-peer learning. So I know you have had your own experiences. I have had my own experiences. So if you would like to add on anything, please feel free to add on it, because this lecture only cannot be comprehensive of everything that is known about young people and deforestation. So what are the objectives of our session today? So we're going to start by unpacking what deforestation is. We will move to reflecting on the effects of deforestation. Later, we're going to briefly speak about what is the essence of COP26 and where are we going to, what are we expecting in COP27. Then afterwards, we're going to also look at the youth-centered deforestation projects, where we're going to have a few case studies and kind of reflect what they're doing, what are their inspirations, what are the actions that they're taking, and what are the challenges that these people are facing trying to eradicate deforestation. So other than that, if you can put on the chat box, you can take a minute to put on the chat box. I would like to know what your expectations are out of this session. What are your expectations? Ah, great, I see. Adaptation measures on deforestation, to learn and get insight about youth-centered projects of deforestation, to learn innovative ways we can contribute to minimizing deforestation, the actual reach or impact that the youth have, great. Get a better idea of what I can do with your own project, with your own reality to improve the current state of deforestation, great. The characteristic of youth projects and how we can use strengths and improve the weaknesses. Okay, then get inspired and motivated to contribute towards the Mother Earth. Oh yeah, that sounds really good. What I can do in youth-centered projects. Wonderful. Okay, great. So I hope we will be able to reflect on all that in a way, and also have a discussion on what probably I won't have covered, and try to educate each other at the end of this session. So I'll get started. This is Wangari Maathai, the first woman to ever win a Nobel Prize. She's from Kenya, and this woman is famously known as an environmentalist. So the late Wangari Maathai said, until you dig a hole, you plant a tree, you water it, and make it survive, you haven't done a thing. You're just talking. And so when it comes to acting towards deforestation, we all need to take action. And in this case, today we are talking about the young people. Have you dug a hole? Have you planted a tree? Have you watered it? Have you made it survive? Until then, the late Wangari Maathai said that you're just talking until you put yourself into the action. Of course, the young people who are doing something, and also all of us who have joined this call, are also interested in finding ways of combating deforestation. So let's get into it. So when we talk about deforestation, when you just do a quick Google, what comes immediately? And there are few things that are associated with deforestation. So it is the purposeful clearing of forested land. It is also something associated with the action of clearing a wide area of trees, that you're not just cutting trees, you are cutting a lot of trees actually, and you're clearing a huge piece of land. So cutting down of trees in the forest in a large number, it is also associated with cutting, clearing, and removal of rainforests or related ecosystems. That is what, is always associated with deforestation when you find it, but at the end, it's all our climate justice, not at all. And so, in terms of deforestation, there's so many things that I said about it. It is a wide issue, and so just a quick check again. What is deforestation? It is the loss of forest land for other purposes, such as agricultural crops, urbanization, or mining operations across the world. So when people clear the trees, they don't just clear the trees, they clear the trees so that they can pursue other human activities. They can keep up with their lifestyles, and that is urbanization, the move of from rural to urban areas, agricultural crops, where we find that there are so many people who are interested in growing cash crops. For instance, we have the palm trees, and which have been cut actually because they are used for economic reasons. And also you find that people probably want to plant, and so because of that they find it very important to cut the trees. So also, there are mining operations across the world, but we'll get into it deeper. So what deforestation has done is that it has harmed our ecosystems, our natural ecosystems. It has harmed our biodiversity and the climate, and has been increased by human activity since 1960. So when we're talking about deforestation, this is a problem. 1960. How many years down the line? We're talking about around 62 years afterwards. Here we are not getting any better. We are still getting trees being cut down anyhowly, and it is not even in a sustainable manner. So people cut down trees, but then they do not find it necessary, or rather they do not even bother to plant more trees. And so let us just do some sort of fact check. There are a few things that have been said about deforestation, which are very bothering and very true because it's happening actually. So the first one is 20% of global carbon emissions come from deforestation. And so when it comes to deforestation, deforestation can happen in different ways. So some people will cut trees and some people will burn trees. And so when people burn trees, what happens? There is the emission of carbon, or rather any fire that comes out of the forest actually contributes to the carbon emission. And we all know what carbon emission do to us. We know how we end up having the global warming, and here we are fighting and doing our best to make sure that at least the emitted carbon can be, taken by the trees, but unfortunately, we are still cutting these trees down. And so even the cutting of the trees emits 20% of the carbon. Imagine that. Quite interesting. So afforestation, reforestation, and for forest restoration facilitates biosequential of atmospheric carbon dioxide. So when it comes to growing more trees, when it comes to replacing the trees that we have cut down, and also restoring the forests that have not existed, actually contributes into, taking in the carbon dioxide that is actually emitted. So that is how important trees are. But when we do deforestation, definitely there is nothing else that happens other than, a lot of carbon staying in our environment. So the other fact is that in 2014, at the New York Climate Summit, for instance, the endorsers of the Declaration of Forest committed to restore 150 million hectares of forest globally by 2020 and 350 million hectares by 2030. Has this happened yet? I'm not yet to see. I am yet to see. I have not seen that. So when it comes to deforestation, it really shows you that we have even done so many policies. A lot of policies have been put in place. We have gathered as a whole world, and globally we have gathered and come together. And when we come together, we are hoping to make the world better. But what we need is not any more policies. We do not need any more discussions about what we can do. What we need to do is to commit ourselves and take action, because as you can see, there's so many promises that have been done, but what has ended up being 10 years later, 60 something years later since 1960, what's going on? We still have our trees being cut. We still have a lot of deforestation going on. So it's quite interesting. Then about 2 million hectares of forest disappear each year in Africa. Yes. Yesterday, I had a training with young people in Laikipia County, where I am right now, and we were talking about climate change. And when we were reflecting in it, these people are people who live near Mount Kenya. And, Mount Kenya is a place where, it's rich of this forest land. And interesting enough is how the young people say it. We just went there the other day. People want to see rain, but these cultural practices that they have, where they believe if we burn down the trees, then they're going to help form the black clouds, and the black gray cloud is going to indeed impact on us getting the rainfall, which is quite interesting. And that is how, it kind of reflects how in a continent like Africa, this is how trees are lost. So there's so many things that are happening. And also, between 1990 and 2012 alone, Indonesia lost about 9 million hectares of its forests, largely due to deforestation caused by palm oil, where people cut down trees to actually get the palm oil, but do they bother to replace them? Not at all. And so this is an enormous problem that the world is facing when it comes to deforestation. It is not something that we can ignore anymore. And the young people of today are people who are already feeling the effects of deforestation, because we are the ones who are living. The people who lived 70 years ago, who were born 70 years ago, have seen, the better part of the world, lived in a cleaner environment. But now here we have a lot of carbon being emitted. We have a lot of trees that are being cut. And there are so many reasons that are, that are contributing to the cutting of the trees. And, when you reflect on it very well, you find that there are these set systems, because if we know deforestation is wrong, then why is it that we keep on having people cut trees, even in systems, even when the government is there to protect its people? We still see that the carbon is being emitted by people burning down trees, probably when they are harvesting honey, people, cutting down trees and walking away with that and not being held accountable. So it's a whole reflection of it. And it's also something that I would like you to think about who is it really is affected by deforestation. And, you can think about the different people in the society and the privilege that they hold. Why do people cut down trees? And why is it that they keep on doing it and doing it? And do they have an option? Is it a choice? And who is really being affected? And in this case, it trickles down to the young people paying the price of the mistakes that the past has done. And when you think about what young people can do, this is the time where the young people can be able to take action, be able to feel like their voice is being heard, and, take action and do something before we get into a point where the global temperatures are going to rise because of the inevitable carbon that is being emitted. It is high time. And that is why we can see a lot of young people involving themselves in activities that can be able to combat the deforestation. So let us get into what are the causes of deforestation. And in this case, we have two causes of deforestation. We have the human causes and we have the natural causes. So when you think about the human causes, they're actually enormous, but then we also have the natural ones. And I want us to just pay a bit of the attention. So I've listed some here, but then we are also going back to to the chat box, and I would like you to add anything that has not been highlighted here that I might have missed. So when it comes to humans, agriculture is the cause of deforestation. 80% of the world deforestation, imagine, is because people want to pursue their agricultural activities. I mean, it's obvious that the population keeps on rising. And what does that mean? A lot of food has to be produced. And when food has to be produced, while the land is minimal, what happens? They have to cut trees and probably create more space for their agriculture. Do they have other choices? I mean, of course they do, but agriculture remains to be number one cause of deforestation. And why necessary for us actually to cut down trees or get rid of these trees, clear this piece of land, get rid of this ecosystem, because we want to plant more crops, probably food crops, probably cash crops. So the other thing is new constructions. I mean, we are living in a world where even in the urban cities, there is what we call gentrification, where you find the greener spaces are being pushed away so that people can be able to do the new constructions and building. In my master's, actually, I studied a master's in gender and development studies last year, and I was at the Institute of Development Studies in the University of Sussex in the UK. And when I was pursuing my master's, I did a very interesting study on my dissertation. And in that dissertation, I studied the impact of allotment gardening to the well-being of women in the United Kingdom, Brighton City. And so interesting enough is how, the people who are interviewed were very clear about it. And they said, our aim of, gardening is not only for mental health, but also it is because we really want to make sure that the garden is are not eliminated. And so you find growing. So you will find some of the people, they're able to, plant trees that can be able to they're able to plant trees that can be able to at least contribute into the afforestation of their city. So the other thing is urbanization. You find that there are quite a number of people who will move to urban cities, and that is what we're talking about, where we say new constructions are emerging. And why are new constructions emerging? Because we have over 60% of the world moving to the urban cities. It is predicted by the studies that by 2030, we're going to have over 65% of the global population moving to the urban cities. And so you find that this urbanization is also a cause of deforestation. The other thing is wood cutting of forest reserves. And I can talk about this from my perspective of Africa, where you find that in Africa, people use firewood to cook, especially in rural areas. It is not new sector. People go to fetch firewood actually so that they can be able to, generate their source of energy so that they can be able to cook. And so you find that in this process, because these rural areas have a lot of trees surrounding them, you find that within time, actually, those trees have been cut because people are trying to get firewood. And so they make the environment to be a source of firewood, and so they will end up cutting the trees. Then the other thing is development of cocoa, palm oil plantations, and land clearing for mining activities. So you find that these human activities that people have to keep up with, these economic activities, are actually the reason why people go outside there and cut down the trees, which doesn't actually serve the society well, because at the end, we have the carbon which is being emitted and not being absorbed by these trees. So the other thing is honey harvesting. So you find that in some trees, for instance, in Mount Kenya, there are some people who will go and harvest honey. So if they're going to harvest honey, they find a lot of bees. So there are these trees, I can't remember the name of the trees. There are these trees, I think they're called rosewood. So there are these trees where they grow really tall, and they've been there for a very long time. So you find that the bees normally come into that opening in between the trees and start processing them, start producing and processing the honey. So at some point, the communities around go to fetch the honey. So what do? They would harvest honey through smoking. So they light up the fire, and then the smoke will take the bees out. Of course, they will be uncomfortable because of the smoke, and then they get to harvest the honey. So that is my context. And actually, this is one of the reasons why Mount Kenya is losing a lot of trees. Now, what are the natural causes of deforestation? So there are animals actually which cut down trees. For instance, the elephants, they are likely, especially when they're angry, they take down trees. And then also there is the extreme weather, because you find that not every part of the world has the same weather. It is not all forests that are tropical. And so you find that even in those tropical places where we have had climate change issues, you find that the rain is not pouring. And if the rain is not pouring, then our trees end up drying. Yeah. So this is also a natural cause for deforestation. And then we also have parasites. Sometimes the parasites may invade into trees, and at the end, before you know, probably like the ants, before you know, the trees are down. Yeah, great. So what are some of other causes that you think have not been mentioned here? Oh, great. So I can see Mari. Mari says, I hope I'm pronouncing your name well. If I'm not, I am sorry about that. So Mari says, also surviving for some families who own forest and have no other option than to clear and cut and feed their families. You're right about that, actually, where people want actually to cut down trees so that, you know, they can sell the trees. And if they sell the trees, they are going to get money out of it, and that is their source of the income. That is a source of livelihood, yeah. And so they have to do that. Then there is also forest fire. You're right about that. Australia is quite a victim of this so many times, where we've had wildfire happening. And then we also have wars. That is true. Then we also have wood cartels. Yes, those wood cartels, these are the people who sell, like, these are the people who the systems are actually, you know, the systems are actually entertaining to keep on, you know, cutting these trees, because we have to question power. If you're a person who is putting yourself out there to advocate for something, to take action for something, it is very important to assess what we call power, because power is very important in terms of assessing who has the privilege, who gets the power to do what, and are they questioned, are they held accountable? So it is very important. Then also wildfire, illegal logging, you're right about that. There is illegal logging. I think that cuts across the wood cartels and also the forest fire, as we had mentioned. Then we also have water stress. Uh-huh. Then we also have the smoking. Okay, so Rachel is asking, does smoking result in forest fires? And hence Kenya is looking their forest cover. So actually, yes, it actually contributes to the forest fires, because normally what the community will do is that they are going to harvest honey. And you know, this honey is pure, it is indigenous, and it is something probably that has been passed down from generations to generations. And so what people do, actually, they go there and you find that they're just going to, you know, start a fire, and no one knows what can stop the fire. It can actually end up, you know, clearing the bush, or rather clearing the whole wide area of the trees, especially the young trees which have not really grown tall. And sometimes it affects a lot of the forest cover, actually. So then we also have mining is also a reason. I think we had mentioned it earlier, but yes, as you're saying, mining is also a huge reason, where people will go and start mining the land. And so as a process, you'll find all the trees will be cut down. Desertification, yes, as a result of climate change. Then we also have narco traffic, very true. Then we also have improving quality of life, when people want to buy more and more. That is true, actually, because you find that we have a new lifestyle. You cannot compare the lifestyle of 2022 with the lifestyle of, you know, 50 years ago. And so you find that we need, a lot of things have changed in terms of the sources of livelihoods, just so many things. So people have to cut down trees and get the money. Then slash and burn agriculture, that is true, actually. Then just, okay. I didn't understand that. Just marilis, it's okay. I don't know. I didn't understand that. Overgrazing, yes, there is that as well, where you find, like, I'll give you an example with Kenya, actually. Today you're going to learn about a lot probably about Kenya as well, because I'm also Kenyan. So I know my context very, very well. So you find that in some of the places, especially some of the pastoralist communities have a lot of livestock, and that is their lifestyle. Livestock are part of their culture, and that is their source of livelihood. And so as a result, what you find is that overgrazing is going to contribute to the cutting down of trees as well. Then extractive industry like mining and oil, yes, you're right about that. Improper land use, that is very true. Furniture industry is very true. Carbon offsets are also just greenwashing, having in most contexts no real effect. It is true, actually. You find that, when it comes to greenwashing is there. It happens every day in these global conferences where people meet, they get to promise, they get to talk about everything. We think about Stockholm 50 plus 50, actually it's happened up to 50 years, but then they are calling out the systems and saying, you know what, actually, we said we're going to get better. But in real sense, we have not gotten any better. So that's interesting. Then improving quality of life when people want to buy more, that is true. And then slash and burn agriculture. Yeah. So other than that, thank you so much for your contribution. This is what I am talking about now. This is peer-to-peer learning. And at the end, we are going to get better. All of us, even me, I am here to learn from you as well. And that way, we all get out of this session as better people. Awesome. So what are the effects of deforestation? When you come to think about deforestation, what are the real effects of deforestation really? And you find that actually one of the biggest effects is the fact that, the surrounding ecosystem is taken away. And as we know, forests are, part of this, forests are homes to many animals, very many animals. And so when we cut down trees, actually, where do the animals go to? So they are going to be extincted. I can't remember the name of the study, but there was this study and also this initiation that was made in America where the wolves were reintroduced in a forest. And you find that actually those animals got to even contribute into, the ecosystem becoming much more better, and a bare land that had been cut and deforested actually ended up having, a lot of ecosystem back, a lot of trees growing. So animals are very important. But then if we cut down the trees, they actually, we end up actually making them homeless and extincting them, and it's not okay. And I will tell you something, sometimes we are so privileged that we cannot see what probably some of the communities do. But the thing is, in places like Isiolo, Kenya, I can tell you it is in the northern Kenya. And I can tell you what, there is a time I went earlier this year and I was speaking to one of the conservation initiatives, which is partnering with the community and the young people. And what they told me, the aim of the conservation is to make sure that the community is reconnected to the ecosystem that was surrounding them 50 years ago, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago. Before, we used to have animals to go back and start, um, the process of afforestation, and the young people are really contributing to it, so that at the end, they can be able to get back their forest system. So you find that there is a lot of disconnection. The other thing about the effect of deforestation, of course, we know climate change is the effects of climate change keep on deteriorating because there are rising global temperatures. You also find that some of the families are actually facing what we call flooding because the trees can also be a good source of retaining the water that is poured down when it rains. But then when there are no trees, what happens? All the water, goes back probably to the communities, or rather the homes that live near the forest. And as a result, you find that they are facing what we call flooding. Then the other thing is that if we cut down trees, we know very well trees contribute to the process of the rain. And so you find that if we're cutting down the trees, then there are communities that may actually end up having droughts, which is a bit a bit bad for them, because not a bit, like really bad for them, because most of the communities which are rural, live in rural areas, you're going to find that if they live in rural areas, most probably they're depending on the agricultural activities. And in some places, actually, technology is not really advanced. So you find that these people are going to lack food, because they're not going to find food, because there is not really, the rain that is pouring down. Yet they used to depend into this nature of the rain pouring down and actually contributing to their agriculture. So those are some of the effects of deforestation. So there is this video that I wanted us to watch, but we may watch it later. I will just continue and then we'll watch it later. It just kind of summarizes everything about deforestation in very simple words, in a very brief manner. And I wanted us to watch it, but we will still watch it if we still got some time at the end. So what can be done? Deforestation is there. We can see that there are effects of deforestation, but what can really be done? Because there got to be someone who does something. There is something that needs to be done. And so you find that the young people are taking charge of that. And they're taking charge majorly in 4 different ways. And the first thing is education, where people are educated about the importance of our trees and the importance of also practicing sustainable deforestation. If you cut down trees, then please can you plant probably thrice of the number that you have cut down? Can you do that for the future, for the society? So you find that education is something. Then you also find that there are programs that are actually educating the young children to be conscious and aware of the importance of forests. And so you find that education is something that has really helped, because the only reason why some people would cut down trees, especially the ones who do not cut them down because of commercial reasons, it's because they do not have the knowledge, and knowledge is power. And when you have power, what do? You can decide, you are elite, and you can be able to make the right decision. So education is one of the fine ways that have been able to contribute. The young people have been able to contribute with in terms of, combating deforestation. Then the other thing is incentives for sustainable forest use, where you find that there are organizations that have been started actually to recommend, to motivate the people who are doing a good job in terms of afforestation, in terms of, practicing sustainable forest use, where they cut down trees, but then they get to replace them. Then there are also laws and policies to protect the forests, where, for example, you can check something called the wildfire corridors in Wales, in the UK, where you can be able to find what they are doing in their forests, and also, in their forest lands. What are they doing? Check out the wildfire corridors. Then the other thing is campaigning against logging, where campaigns are very important, but where we have reached, I personally feel like we do not need campaigns anymore. We need a movement. We need a huge movement where everyone in the world is against cutting down of the trees, because we are suffering, especially as young people. We are suffering. Probably, as young people, we're going to be there for the next 50 years. How will the world be? Global temperatures rising, a lot of things just happening in the environment, us facing all the climate disasters, because there are people down trees, and as a result, so we have global warming. And this movement will be very important. A campaign is something that just starts today. So we make a poster. So if we make a poster, then we call people, we do probably a media address, and then so what? Can we get to start a movement? And as young people, the way you have come together, I can see you are in groups. But if you can be able to think about, if you can be able to think about how to start a movement and build a movement instead of just a campaign, I think it will highly contribute to what this world needs in the next few years. And the movement can be global, because if everyone buys the idea, if there is a radical movement where people are highly discouraging the deforestation, then actually everyone will get the rhythm, will catch the rhythm, and actually we are all going to be against deforestation. And finally, actually, when you think about the cartels that actually probably are getting to cut down the trees and don't have anyone who is holding them accountable, think about it. It's a bit exciting to think about what a movement can do, because if we don't come together, it's like, so this is the situation. So what a movement does, you've been having this big fish in an ocean, for instance, which is like swallowing all the small fish and probably doing whatever it wants. But just imagine if the small fish unite and form a bigger fish. Can you imagine what can really happen? Then the big fish, which is alone, won't have power over a million other fish which come together to be against something. So the same thing, in a society, you find that the people who are taking an advantage, the people who are taking advantage of the systems, and the people who feel like they cannot be stopped, and they continue to have these dangerous practices towards our trees, cutting them down and actually burning them, is just because we have not united. But imagine if we were to unite and there is a movement, then there is no way this person will have the power against so many people. Think about it. Now, a lot has been done as well. As you know, we have the climate change conferences, which have actually been happening. Since when? Since 26 years ago, 1995, actually. And this year, we're going to have like the COP27, which is a bit interesting. Like, what has really been done? But then here is the thing. So at the COP26 in Glasgow, countries, more than 100 countries committed to halting and reversing deforestation by 2030. And you know what is exciting about COP27, which I know this program is also going to participate and contribute into. And as a young person, as a person who is taking part of this initiative, then you can be able to think about it and think about, how do we hold our governments accountable? How do we make them now commit through actions? Because after COP26, the more than 100 countries which met actually agreed that, hey, you know what? We are not going to be talking about what we can do anymore. From COP27, we are going to be talking about actions, yeah? So you commit financially, you commit probably by action, whatever it is, you need to commit. So think about it. So that's the exciting thing about the COP. And that is what we should get ready and I guess excited for. Because if every country is going to be held accountable and they're going to be talking about the actions that they've been taking, I mean, why can't we have the change in the world that we want to see? So now let's talk about the cases of youth-centered projects to combat deforestation. So I did a quick search and tried to familiarize myself with what the young people are doing globally. And you find that young people from all over the world have very exciting projects to actually combat deforestation. So when we talk about the world, I mean, if we talk about countries, those are so many countries. But what I try to do is to check into this through different continents that we have. We have South America, North America, Africa, Asia, Australia, and Europe. And so I try to get a few continents and some of the exciting projects that are happening. One of it is in Africa. This is Africa. This is the African continent. So Africa has, over 52 countries. And so in Africa, we have, in Kenya specifically, we have Panda Miti Penda Kenya. It is an initiative. This is Swahili. Panda Miti means grow trees. Penda Kenya means love Kenya. So it means you grow trees and love Kenya. So this initiative was started by young people who live in the slums of Madare. So what are these people doing? So these people realized that there are no trees to hug around. And so what they did, because most of them, most of the houses are built by, iron sheets. So what they did, they decided we need to hug trees. We need to get trees in our hood. And so what they did is that they started the campaign of growing trees to show that you love your country. An exciting project, isn't it? And then the youth for the environment, Nigeria, where this person actually thought about it and thought about, you know what? Um, we have a huge future. I do not understand why why is it that people are cutting trees and we're the people to pay the price? So he said, then I will start my initiative. And so he started the Youth for the Environment Project, where they started just a young person in Nigeria. Then we also have youth think. Then there is also the Green Generation Initiative in Kenya, where they are trying the best they can to educate the young children in schools about the effects of deforestation. They go meet those children, talk to them about deforestation. Once they get to understand, they go ahead and plant trees where these children are able to take care of as they are in school, as they continue to school. Then the other thing is Asia. So in Asia, there is the Heartland project in Indonesia, which is also trying to eradicate deforestation. Then we also have the Green Hub project in Asia, where the indigenous youth are being involved in taking videos, capturing video about the situation of deforestation and its effects in their community. And out of this, they are able to start and provoke conversations online and all over the world. They keep the conversation going about what are the effects of deforestation and what can be done to combat it. Then there is also Sri Lanka Mangrove Conservation Project, where as a country, they are growing a lot of mangrove trees. And this, of course, contributes to combating the deforestation. Then in Europe, yeah, there's quite a lot going on. There is Youth for Trees, Y for Trees, where, this project has been really contributing to growing trees. Of course, it contributes to, eradicating deforestation. And then also we have Scotland's young people's forest. So Scotland is a beautiful um, part of United Kingdom actually. And so you find that there is this youth project where they just have mobilized young people to, plant trees. And then there is also this teenager who was featured and started the Plant for the Trees, Plant for the Planet project in Germany. And so you find that in the South Munich, this young fella has tried to, start the process and the culture of planting trees to contribute towards combating deforestation. And then we also have South America, where, as we all know, we have the Amazon forest. And Amazon is very important because actually it is like the lung of our universe, and for so many years, since 1960s, it has been actually noted that, there is a lot of deforestation going on because of cattle, and also, just because of the agricultural practices and this economic activities that are going on. And so you find that a lot of trees have been cut. So we also have a project which I found very interesting, as you can see, which is powered by Global Forest Generation and is scaling up a time tested where a 19-year-old also started the community reforestation model, where they're involving the community, and this community is actually, the communities are able to contribute to the deforestation, combating the deforestation. And also, just to say, what is notable also is the fact that when when you involve the community in a program, the community feels that they own it because they know the challenges that they face. And so when you start a project and involve the community, you are likely to actually provoke their thinking, you're likely to provoke their thought of sustainability, and that's where the project is is going to be more sustainable. So you find that the young people of South America are actually making sure that they involve the community in terms of reforestation, developing a reforestation model. Then also, we have Australia. And so Australia is one of the countries, as we said, which have been affected by wildfires. And so you find there are a few commitments that have been done. And these commitments, for sure, as you can see, they are things that are youth-centered because they are thinking about the young people and their future. And so you find that in Australia, you find that so in Australia, you'll find that there is this project being led by WWF where they are looking forward to growing 2 billion trees, and also by 2030, and also we also have 20 million trees program, which was committed by the government at COP26, where they said by 2025 they're going to have cultivated 20 million trees in their country. So that is youth-centered because it is looking into the future. And then also, now let us briefly look at what inspires these initiatives. What are the inspiration of these initiatives? And people have different reasons why they start their initiatives, especially the young people. And so you find that, for instance, in Mathare, Kenya, that slum has young people who have decided actually they're not trees to hug. And so if they're not trees to hug, what does that mean? It communicates a lot in terms of the mental health, where nature has a way of healing. And so they find that if someone can be able to even sit down by a tree, or rather just find a tree to lean on, then it's activists. There are activist driven. It's called Ecovista, which I know the Action Aid International Kenya is engaging their youth in, where the young people, they have an activist network called Activista, but then because of the current changes in climate, they have decided to start another branch, or rather other concern in the network of activists, which is called Ecovista. So these are young people who are coming together to challenge these things. And actually yesterday I was interacting with them when we were actually unpacking what is happening in Mount Kenya. And so you find that there are these activist-driven initiatives in their communities, and these young people are able to contribute to that. Then also benefits of the trees, communities, and wildfire. So you find that the benefits of the trees are actually driving people to starting their own projects. For instance, the project that I spoke about in Nigeria, where that young person feels like, oh, actually, we need to benefit from the trees, and actually we need to contribute to afforestation instead of deforesting, and yet we need these trees. Then also sustainability, where if we plant more trees, then we are more sustainable compared to when we don't have trees. Then also keeping the conversation going, as a project in India, where young people are able to take pictures of what is happening, and that provokes conversations online. Then inspiration by environmentalists. For instance, the project that I spoke about the young person who started this tree planting project in the south of Munich in Germany. You find that is a person who actually read more about Wangari Maathai, who was Kenyan and was also inspired by her community to start growing trees. So you find that some of these icons are very important in terms of helping youth feel motivated to starting their own projects. Then also organizational support. I find that there are organizations that are taking initiative to actually support the young people, or rather projects that are deforestation projects that are, projects that are geared towards combating deforestation, and they find it easy to support the initiatives. For instance, as I said, the WWF in Australia, 2 billion trees. That's huge. But then you can see that is a youth-centered project because it is looking at the future. Then, just real quick, I know, yes, I'm supposed to be finishing, so I'll only take a minute to say that, what are the challenges that these young people face? So I was able to just quickly scan through and find that where there are these resilient community activities where you find that, for instance, in Mount Kenya, communities are used to harvest honey, and so they're still going to do smoking, and so they keep on being resilient towards that. And so there is this challenge because you're trying to grow trees, yet someone else is trying to continue cutting down trees, or rather burning the trees. So it's a bit of a challenge. Then we also have funding, where the young people are very motivated to start projects, but then once they start them, are they sustainable? Especially the people who are not in the limelight, because we have unsung heroes. Not every young person who is doing a great thing is actually out there on the media and is able to attract funding. So you find their dreams are cut short because they do not have the fuel of funding to fuel the process of their initiatives. Then they also think that the other thing is inconsistency, where you find that people will start, but then when they go on, what happens? Are they able to be consistent after speaking about what they will do? Are they able to go ahead and do what they say they will do? Then there is also poor solidarity, where you find the young people want to do things, but then is there solidarity in the community? The community wants to continue with their own practices, but then what about the young people who also want to make sure that you are not cutting down trees anymore? If you cut down trees, could you please replace the trees with many, many, many more trees, so that the future can have trees as well? So you find this is a huge challenge. Then also unsustainable deforestation practices. As I said, people cut down trees, but then they do not want to replace these trees, even though they cut them down for their economic needs. So you find that they do not have the sustainability mentality in them. Oh, that's it. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this session was of help in one way or the other. Thank you for your contribution. Have a good day. Back to you, Kim.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so do you guys have any questions?